My daughter was kidnapped by traffickers. My husband, Richard Gray, tried to calm me. He said, Nora's daughter was taken too, just like Sophie, but at least her kidnappers left a clue. If we find her first, maybe we'll find our own child too. I slapped him, hard. Then I turned and ran straight to the police station. Because in my past life, I listened to him. We searched for Nora's daughter first, but the ones who took her and the ones who took Sophie, they were never the same people. That whole connection, a lie. One Richard made up, to stall me, to distract me. And because of that, I missed the only chance to save her. I spent a lifetime searching for Sophie, but I never found her. In the end, I died, depressed, broken, alone. But not this time. This time, no one is stopping me from saving my daughter. Right then, my phone rang. It was Sophie. She had sent me her location. Her voice was trembling, barely a whisper through the speaker. Mom, don't believe Dad. Bring the police. Please, save me. My heart stopped. She remembered. She had been reborn too. Turns out Nora's daughter really had been kidnapped again. Same as last time. And Richard Gray, still trying to trick me, just like he did in that other life. Back then, I was frantic. I couldn't think clearly. He said, help Nora first. And I believed him. I kept telling myself, if I find Nora's child, maybe Sophie will be there too. So I threw everything I had into that search. Money, people, time, hope. But in my eyes, I wasn't searching for Nora's daughter. I was searching for mine. In the end, thanks to my help, Nora found her child. The two of them held each other, sobbing, reunited. And me? I stood there, alone. Her daughter said she never saw Sophie. That's when it hit me. Richard lied. Again. The kidnappers were never the same. We gave everything for the wrong child. And Sophie, my baby, was still missing. Still suffering, still out there somewhere. The pain, the guilt, the rage, it all lit a fire in me. I confronted him, but he just looked at me and said, she's gone without a trace. You could spend millions and never find her. At least helping Nora was good karma. Maybe that counts for something. I stared at him in disbelief. Then I left. I divorced him and walked that long, dark road, searching for Sophie alone. But life isn't a movie. In the end, I died without a single clue. So this time, I didn't let him speak. I slapped him across the face, then drove my knee hard into his groin. You think someone like you deserves a child? You should have never had one. Let your bloodline end here. He froze in shock. A second later, he came to and shouted, Elena, are you insane? I didn't have time to argue. I turned and ran, jumped into the car, dialed the police as I drove. Then I called every single contact I had. Mobilize now. Start the search. Find Sophie. Right then, my phone rang again. It was Ms. Martha, our housekeeper. I answered on instinct. But the voice I heard was Sophie's. Mom, don't trust Dad. Please, bring the police. Save me. Tears burst from my eyes. Sophie, Mommy's coming. Right now. Hang up. Don't let them hear you. I hit the gas. At the station, the police traced her location from the call. And we found her. She was standing on the edge of a cliff, shivering, barefoot, clutching a phone that wasn't hers. Sophie. I ran to her, threw my arms around her. Tears poured down my face. Unstoppable. I pulled off my down coat, wrapped it around her tiny body. My hands brushed her frozen cheeks. Sophie, come on, let's get in the car. It's warm inside. But then, Sophie looked down toward the cliffside. Her voice trembled. Mom, Miss Martha, she fell. I froze. The police rushed over. Sophie and I were taken into a patrol car while a search team was immediately dispatched below. Not long after, they found her. But Miss Martha was already gone. Cold. Lifeless. There was nothing left to ask her now. All I could do was hold Sophie tight, like I'd never let her go again, because just to find her, I had already endured an entire lifetime. Sophie, from now on, we'll never be apart again, ever. On the way back, the officer gently reminded me to arrange trauma counseling. He said they could wait until after that before taking her full statement. But Sophie looked up like a little adult. I can give my statement now. I looked at her in silence, and something clicked in my mind. This life, she called me the moment she was taken. How did she know? How did she remember? Could it be? Sophie had been reborn too. It had to be. My body trembled at the thought. In the last life, I died in despair. But what about Sophie? What happened to her? How did she die? I couldn't bear to imagine. My chest tightened with pain as we arrived at the station. Sophie sat with the officer, calm, clear. They knocked me out, she said. When I woke up, I was in the mountains. The only person I saw was Miss Martha. I asked her why she brought me there, but she didn't answer. Then I remembered what you taught me, Mom, about how to protect myself. I realized it was her. She was the one who took me. When she wasn't paying attention, I grabbed a rock and hit her from behind, then took her phone to call you. Her voice cracked. Her hands trembled. But after the call, she got up. She started crawling toward me. I panicked and pushed her. She fell. Tears rolled down Sophie's cheeks. Her voice broke. I didn't mean to. Officer, I swear, I didn't mean to kill her. The officer knelt down beside her. You didn't, he said gently. You protected yourself. That was self-defense. You were brave. Sophie's wide, tear-filled eyes looked up. Really? I'm not a murderer. He smiled and patted her head. No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. She nodded, eyes red, lips trembling. Thank you, officer. Before we left the station, he reminded me once more. Please make sure she sees a counselor. Your daughter may sound mature, more than most 8-year-olds, but deep down, she's still a child. Some wounds don't show up right away, but they always leave a mark. Many people with PTSD suffer for years before anyone notices. She's still young. If you act now, it's not too late. I nodded, deeply grateful. Since I hadn't driven, Sophie and I took a taxi home. The moment we stepped through the door, I turned to her. Sophie, you remember, don't you? You've lived through this before too? Her eyes widened. Mom, you came back too? And then, both of us broke. We collapsed into each other's arms, crying uncontrollably, like trying to make up for all the hugs we never got to share in that past life. After a long time, I finally let her go, gently brushing the tears from her face. Tell me everything, sweetheart. What happened? What did you go through? Sophie shook her head, wiping away my tears instead. It's over now, Mum. Please, don't ask. She didn't want me to hurt. She didn't want me to carry the pain. My heart shattered. I blamed myself. I hated myself. What kind of mother lets her child suffer twice? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Sophie. Mommy failed you. I didn't protect you. She hugged me again, her voice trembling. It was Ms. Martha. She was working for Nora. She was paid to do it. Mom, you can't watch me 24/7. They'll always find a way. That's how they got me. She took a deep breath, steadied herself, then whispered. Last time, Ms. Martha pushed me off that cliff. She wanted me dead, to silence me. I stood there, trembling. Sophie's voice was shaking. "I didn't die, Mom, but I lost my memory." Her voice cracked. "Then, the traffickers found me." She stopped. Her words caught in her throat. She skipped over the rest and continued quietly. "It wasn't until I got my memory back, escaped, and made it home, that I realized you'd been looking for me all those years. I came back the day after you died. My body froze. I couldn't breathe. But at that time, Richard Gray was living happily with Nora Collins and her daughter. A perfect little family." Sophie's fists clenched. I hated them. I hated Richard Gray down to my bones. So I found their house, tied the three of them up. I turned on the gas. I was ready to kill them. For revenge. But I failed. They survived, barely. All three ended up in comas. And me? A year later, I was sentenced to death. If that hadn't happened, I never would have come back. I stood in stunned silence, like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. The grief, the rage, it all surged up inside me again, roaring to life like fire under my skin. Richard Gray. That man was a monster. He let Ms. Martha, a woman paid off by Nora, kidnap his own daughter. No matter who laid the hand on Sophie, he was the one who let it happen. He was the one I could never forgive. Sophie clutched my hand tightly, voice low but firm. "But Ms. Martha is dead now. We don't have any proof that Nora or Richard were behind it." I took a deep breath. My voice was like ice. "It doesn't matter, Sophie. I'll make them pay." Then I remembered the officer's warning about trauma, about not letting the darkness take over. I pushed the hatred down and forced my tone to soften. "Tomorrow we'll go see the doctor, a therapist." "Okay?" Sophie nodded obediently. Then we heard it. The sound of an engine pulling into the driveway. I let go of Sophie's hand and glanced out the window. Richard Gray had returned. We exchanged a look. He stepped inside, face twisted with anger. But when he saw Sophie, he froze. His entire body stiffened, his eyes filled with shock and fear. "Sophie? You're back?" Sophie instantly slipped back into the role of an innocent little girl. She smiled sweetly, eyes crinkling. "Yup, I'm home, Daddy. Aren't you happy to see me? Or were you hoping I wouldn't come back?" Richard stole a glance at me, then forced a grin and rushed toward her. "Of course I'm happy. You have no idea how worried I was." Then, without waiting, he plopped down beside me. His voice shifted. Half guilt, half charm. "She's back now. That's all that matters, right? You can relax. No more slapping or kneeing me in the groin, okay? Don't you think Sophie deserves a little brother or sister?" My stomach turned. I kept my voice cold. "Why are you here? Didn't Nora's daughter get kidnapped too? Shouldn't you be helping her instead?" Richard's smile faltered. He pressed his lips together, voice quieter. "I was looking for Sophie. How could I put someone else's child above my own? Besides, whoever the child is, she's still innocent. We had to help, right?" I tilted my head, feigning innocence. "But how did you know Sophie and Nora's daughter were taken by the same people? Unless you knew exactly who took them." His face went pale, like a sheet of paper. You know?" I didn't acknowledge his panic. Instead, I raised my voice slightly, angrily. "It was Ms. Martha." I heard him swallow. Loud, nervous. Did she say anything?" I let the silence hang heavy in the air. Let him sink deeper into fear. If I couldn't destroy him yet, at least I could let him rot in dread. Then I sighed, shaking my head. She's dead. What could she possibly say now? His face twitched, and for the briefest second, Relief flashed in his eyes. "Miss Martha is dead?" he asked, voice full of feigned surprise. "How did she die? Did she say anything before she went?" I tilted my head, pretending to be naive. "She's dead?" I echoed softly. "You sound happy." He froze, just for a second. Then, as if catching himself, he switched tones and snapped back indignantly. "We treated her well, and she dared to kidnap our daughter. People like that deserve to die. What's so strange about being glad she's gone?" I nodded slowly, my voice razor-sharp, as I pressed each word into him. "Yes, someone who kidnapped Sophie deserves to die." I paused, just long enough. "But she wasn't the only one?" His expression shifted. Eyes darted. And then he changed the subject, like he always did. "Elena, Sophie's back now. Maybe you could help Nora. Her daughter's still missing. She's completely broken. You're a mother. You understand how that feels, don't you?" I didn't respond. I didn't argue. I simply raised my hand and slapped him hard. He roared, "What the hell? Are you addicted to slapping me now?" I stared him down. "You said I should understand because I'm a mother. I already lost Sophie once, and now you want me to feel that pain again." I laughed, bitter, empty. "Is this what fatherhood means to you?" He was seething now, grinding his teeth, breathing hard. "You're being unreasonable," he growled. "This is completely different. But of course, you twist it all like you always do." Then he stood, straightened his shirt, lowered his voice, pretending to be composed. "Sophie's back. You spent everything to find her. Now it's time to help someone else. Use that energy, use those resources to help Nora." I felt my stomach turn. The disgust hit so fast I nearly gagged. "Money," I said coldly. "No. That's money I bled for. I earned it. Every cent is for Sophie. All of it. But if Nora needs help," I added, tone like a knife, "she can borrow someone." He looked at me like I'd grown horns. "You've let money blind you," he said, almost spitting the words. "What matters more to you, money or people?" Before I could even open my mouth, Sophie spoke. Her voice was clear, light, but laced with something sharp. "Daddy, do you like Miss Nora?" He flinched. "Sophie, don't say such things. You're a child. You don't know what you're talking about." She just pouted, unmoved. "You're being mean. You're a bad guy. I don't like you anymore." He ignored her. Of course he did. "Elena," he said, turning back to me, "Nora's in a bad place. She's a single mum. No money, no support. Just lend her a little. The reward's still valid. If she has money, she can find her daughter." I looked him straight in the eye. "I already told you," I said. "She can borrow people, not money." He clenched his jaw, then laughed bitterly. "I didn't expect this from you, Elena. You're cold. Truly heartless." He turned, started walking away. But just as he turned to leave, I called after him, calm, cutting. "What, you're not taking anyone with you?" He paused mid-step, stiffened, like he didn't quite get it yet. I smiled faintly, voice as cold as polished glass. "I thought you were in such a rush to find her daughter." He turned back, clearly annoyed. "Then why don't you call your people and tell them to help?" I let out a soft laugh. "No need. I'm letting her borrow you." His face twitched. I stepped forward, voice like velvet hiding steel. "That's generous, isn't it? Giving your husband away, just like that. Some things, not even money can buy." He wasn't dumb. He heard it loud and clear. Every word dipped in poison. He clenched his jaw. "I've told you again and again, there's nothing between me and Nora. We're just friends." I shrugged, unconcerned. "Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night. But you should get moving. Because if her daughter ends up dead, well..." I let the silence finish the rest. His fists clenched, white-knuckled, shaking. "I can't believe how cruel you are," he hissed. "Sophie's standing right here, and you're wishing death on another kid." Sophie didn't flinch. She tilted her head, eyes wide and sweet, but her voice, lightly mocking. "Go, Daddy. Didn't you say you were worried?" It was just empty talk. If he'd spent less time moralizing and more time acting, maybe that girl would have been found by now. Everything he said, meaningless. Richard hadn't expected Sophie to turn on him too. He opened his mouth, ready to scold her. But she turned away, didn't even look at him. He clenched his fists in silence, then stormed off, waving me off like I wasn't even worth arguing with. Only after watching his car pull out through the gates did I turn to Sophie. "Starting tomorrow," I told her quietly, "I'll begin transferring part of the assets and shares under my name to you." Even though her soul was over 20 years old, in her past life, she'd been kidnapped at just 8. She never got to study, never got to grow up. The fact that she'd survived it all was already a miracle. I knew things like property, shares, ownership. They weren't what she cared about. But I explained anyway. "Right now, your father and I are still legally married. Everything under my name counts as joint property. If we divorce, it gets split in half." She nodded quickly, understanding. Then paused, tilted her head, thinking. Suddenly, she laughed. "You don't have to transfer anything, Mum. He won't be alive much longer anyway." Her words made my skin crawl. I understood her hatred toward Richard, but I couldn't let that be the only thing left inside her. I pulled her into my arms gently. "Sophie, let me handle this, okay? You're still young. You get to start over in this life. As for the rest, just leave it to me." She began to cry. Her voice trembled, raw, bitter. "But I hate him, Mum. I hate him so much I want to kill him right now. I'm his daughter, and still in the last life, he let me rot in hell for over 10 years. Mom." Her body was shaking violently. I had to get her to therapy, immediately. I didn't wait. That afternoon I booked the appointment and took her to the clinic. We'd barely left the estate when a figure suddenly jumped in front of our car. It was Nora. She was pounding on the window, crying, her face streaked with dirt and tears, hair matted to her cheeks. She looked exactly like I had once looked. Back then, in the last life. Wild, desperate, borderline insane from losing my child. I lowered the window slowly. My gaze was cold. She sobbed, her voice broken. "Elena, please, please help me. I can't lose my daughter. You're a mother too. You must understand this pain, don't you?" She clung to the door, voice shrill, pleading. "If you help me, I'll do anything. I'll kneel. I'll beg." And just like that, she began to kneel. But halfway through she froze, half standing, half collapsing, awkward, pitiful. I smirked. "Aren't you going to kneel? I thought you said you would." Her face twitched. She hesitated, then clenched her jaw and nodded. "Fine, I'll kneel." But I wasn't done. Unbuckling my seatbelt, I turned to Sophie. "Let's get out." We stepped out slowly and walked over to Nora. The moment she saw us approaching, her eyes lit up. Relief, hope, gratitude. "I knew it," she whispered. "I knew you'd help me. You're a good person, Elena. I always knew that." I gave her a faint smile and gently placed Sophie in front of her. My tone stayed calm, soft even, but each word landed like stone. "All right. You may kneel now." In our last life, Nora and Richard had shoved my daughter into hell. So this time, if she had to kneel before Sophie, she deserved it. But what she owed my daughter, what she owed me, could never be repaid by a simple kneel. She froze, shocked. "You want me to kneel before a child?" I raised an eyebrow, asked flatly, "Didn't you say you wanted my help finding your daughter?" Does it matter who you kneel to? Kneel, and I'll consider it. Nora bit her lip, furious, reluctant. I didn't care. I turned to Sophie and started walking away. Fine, I'll kneel, she shouted. And with a thud, she dropped to her knees in front of Sophie. Her face was twisted with humiliation, but her voice still begged, "Please, please help me find my daughter." And in that moment, I suddenly understood all those so-called villains in television dramas. Standing there, looking at her now, she didn't seem like a villain at all. She looked exactly like those protagonists who'd been pushed too far, driven into corners, gritting their teeth while swallowing every drop of pride, eyes full of helpless rage, desperate, broken. It was laughable. I smiled coldly and decided to make her squirm just a little longer. Well, you said you'd kneel. What are you waiting for? Don't you know how to beg? Bow your head 3 times. Nora clenched her fists. Then, through gritted teeth, she lowered her head and slammed it against the ground. Once, twice, 3 times. I nodded, satisfied. Good, I said lightly. I'll think about it. Then I turned to Sophie. Come on, sweetheart, let's go. But before I could step away, Nora suddenly leapt to her feet, blocking my path. Her eyes burned wild. Elena, you said if I knelt and bowed, you'd help me find my daughter. You can't go back on your word. I gave her a flat smile. I said I'd consider it. I gently pushed Sophie behind me. Sweetheart, go wait in the car. She obeyed instantly, climbed in, and shut the door. I turned back to Nora. When I've made up my mind, I'll call you. That's when she realized it. She'd been played. You, Elena, how dare you, she screamed, her voice shrill with fury. You're heartless. She lost it, completely. Lunged straight at me like a madwoman. I didn't even hesitate. One kick, straight into her stomach. She collapsed forward, gasping. I took 1 step forward, dropped my knee, and drove it hard into her chest. She let out a scream, raw and sharp, then crumpled to the ground. I didn't look back. I climbed into the car, started the engine, and drove away without a word. As we sped off, I glanced over at Sophie. Sophie, I said calmly, remember this. Men are weak below the waist. Women, in the chest. If anyone ever tries to hurt you, go for those spots first. Whatever happens, Mommy will take care of the rest. She nodded without hesitation. Of course, I knew tricks like these only worked on weaklings. But a little preparation never hurt. Long term, I needed to hire proper bodyguards. Real ones. People who could protect Sophie when I couldn't. 2 hours later, Sophie's first therapy session ended. I brought her home, and the moment we stepped through the door, there they were, Richard Gray and Nora, like flies that just wouldn't leave. No shame, no pride, just greed. For a bit of money, they were willing to throw away even the last scraps of dignity. Richard stormed toward me, grabbed my wrist, and shoved me toward Nora. His voice exploded. Apologize to her. Right now. You can hit me all you want, but how could you lay a hand on her? She was just asking for help. What did she do wrong? Do you even know how hard you hit her? The doctor just said, she has a breast lump now. I almost laughed out loud. Nora sat on the couch, tearful, looking like a victim out of some bad drama. Elena, why? She whimpered. Losing my daughter already shattered me. Why did you have to hit me when I was already down? I always respected you, because you're his wife. I never crossed the line. But you've gone too far. I walked over slowly, sat beside her, gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Soft voice, fake smile. It's okay, it's just a breast lump. Nothing serious. I'll tell Richard to go easy on you from now on. It took a moment, but then it hit them. Their faces flushed red. Shame, fury, humiliation. Nora shrieked, There's nothing between us, nothing at all. Richard and we're just friends. How could you say something so disgusting? Sophie's right here. I smiled sweetly. Sophie, let's go upstairs. Yes, Mommy. She skipped over and took my hand. But before we left, she turned back, completely innocent. Daddy, she said, look, Miss Nora's in so much pain. You should go comfort her. Richard trembled with rage. Nora collapsed into fresh sobs. I didn't even glance at them again. We went upstairs. I closed the door behind us and locked it. Right now, the transfer of assets was already underway, but it wasn't a small amount. It would take time to complete. And I would be ready. When Sophie and I came back downstairs, Richard and Nora were gone. Sophie blinked at me and asked, Mum, when do you think Sadie will come back? Sadie, Nora's daughter, had never been kidnapped at all. The entire thing, it was a scam. Something Nora and Richard orchestrated together, just to extort money from me. Now that they hadn't gotten a single cent, I figured Sadie would magically reappear any day now. And sure enough, 3 days later, she returned. They really committed to the act, waiting 3 whole days, just to make it look like they'd searched high and low. Richard even came home that day. The moment he walked in, he looked straight at me, eyes full of blame. It's a good thing Sadie came back, he said. Otherwise, Elena, you would have had blood on your hands. How can you sleep at night knowing that? I leaned lazily into the sofa, smiling faintly. Oh? I thought you were the one out searching for her. You're my husband. We're a family. One of us making an effort is enough, isn't it? Or did you expect me to spend money and energy? His expression darkened. He forced himself to stay calm, then sat beside me and lowered his voice. You still don't trust me and Nora, do you? Elena, we've been married for years. Our daughter's 8 now. Have I ever done anything to betray you? Why can't you just believe me? I pouted, voice full of mock bitterness. Well, maybe it's because you treat Nora so well. I mean, she's not your wife, I am, so why is she always clinging to you like she is? He laughed suddenly, reached over and pulled me into his arms. Oh, so you are jealous. I scoffed, rolled my eyes, please, as if I'd get jealous, but I let the words soften. Still, I'm not comfortable seeing you that close to her. Can't you at least keep some distance? He sighed, voice dipping into that fake tender register he always used when trying to calm me down. Elena, Nora and I are just friends. If anything were going to happen between us, it would have happened years ago. I dropped my gaze, still pretending to sulk. Let my tone turn girlish, delicate. But I don't want to share my husband with another woman. Is that what you think? That I won't divorce you no matter what, so you just do whatever you want? He chuckled softly, withdrew his arm, and reached out to tilt my chin. His eyes gleamed with that same disgusting arrogance. So you are jealous. You know, a few days ago, you nearly destroyed my manhood. Maybe now it's time to make it up to me. I nearly gagged. Instead, I shoved him off and stood up fast. Seriously? How old are you? Sophie's still upstairs, and this is how you act? Then I turned, calm again. So? Are we done? Richard leaned back like he had all the time in the world, raised a brow, smirked. Don't worry, he said. Everything still works. He tilted his head, voice laced with suggestion. Want to test it out? I acted flustered, stepping closer and tugging his sleeve playfully. Promise me, okay? Don't see Nora anymore. I really hate seeing you two together. He narrowed his eyes at me, studied me. Then his voice lowered, serious this time. Elena, what's gotten into you lately? Back when we first started dating, even after we married, I had never once acted clingy with Richard. Not once. I always put work first. He used to complain all the time that I wasn't feminine enough. Said other men's wives treated their husbands like kings, but I was too strong, too independent. That I embarrassed him. But what about him? His career was mediocre at best. He hadn't earned a single decent cent in years. Everyone around us whispered the same thing. He's just leeching off his wife. But even all that, even his failure as a husband, wasn't enough to excuse what he did. He cheated. He conspired. And worst of all, he hurt his own daughter, all for the sake of two people who weren't even blood. In my past life, I once wondered, could Sadie really be his biological daughter? I thought, if that were true, maybe I could find it in myself to understand why he treated Sophie so cruelly. But I had already tested their DNA, hair samples secretly collected. The results were clear. Richard and Sadie weren't related. At all. Which meant he wasn't just a monster. He was beneath that. Something even a beast would be ashamed to be. I quickly pushed down the anger bubbling in my chest, curled my arm around his, and spoke in a soft, pampered tone. You always used to say I wasn't feminine enough, right? Well, from now on, I'll learn how to be a gentle wife. I almost lost our daughter, and now I finally understand how precious a whole intact family really is. That's why I won't let any woman take my husband away from me. Richard chuckled, pulling me into a hug. Silly, I'd never leave you. I'll always be yours. That's what he said. But who knew what he was really thinking? Not long after, he gently let go of me, placed a hand on my shoulder, and looked at me seriously. But I don't want to keep being called a leech either. How about this? My lovely wife, why don't you lend me some money? I want to start a company of my own. Once I start making profit, I'll pay you back. I promise. There it was. The real reason. The fox finally let its tail show. So soon. Still all about money, isn't it? I gave him a playful glance, pretending to be half annoyed, half touched. Oh, come on. We're husband and wife. What's mine is yours, right? We're a family. His eyes lit up. He squeezed my hand excitedly. Elena, you're the best wife in the world. I slowly pulled my hand back, smiling sweetly. But I just signed a big new project. Cash flow's a little tight right now. Give me some time to sort things out, okay? I'll get you the money soon. Of course, Richard wasn't stupid enough to push for it immediately. He nodded, face full of hope. That night, I told him Sophie was afraid to sleep alone and went to bed with her. As we lay under the covers, she turned to me and whispered, Mom, I want to go back to school. I froze. In her last life, she had never been to school. She could barely even write her own name. Even now, though her soul had grown, she was still just an 8-year-old child. I stroked her hair gently and nodded. All right, tomorrow we'll get you re-enrolled. But you still have to see the therapist every weekend, okay? She nodded right away. I pulled her close, my voice soft as a vow. Sophie, I love you. In this life, I'll protect you, no matter what. From now on, just try being a carefree little girl, okay? She pressed herself against me, voice trembling. Okay, Mommy, I'll try. Hearing that, my heart finally felt a little lighter. The next morning, I brought Sophie back to school. Richard left the house, saying he was off to scout locations for his new company. I'd already arranged for someone to follow him, but he was extra cautious today. He didn't meet with Nora at all. Instead, I ran into Nora myself that afternoon when I went to pick Sophie up from school. She came toward me with Sadie in tow, smiling brightly. Too brightly. Sadie, come on, say hello to Aunt Elena. She made sure to say it loud. Very loud. Loud enough for every other parent in the area to hear. Right in front of the school gates. She even tried to sound gentle. Fake. Saccharine. Sadie, say thank you to Aunt Eleanor, okay? Even though she didn't lend Mommy any money and basically left us to die. You still made it home safely. That's something, right? She bent down and pushed Sadie forward. Go on. Say thank you. Uncle Richard went all over the place looking for you. Sadie, clever little girl, curtsied politely. Thank you, Aunt Elena. But then she looked up at me, eyes a little watery. But Aunt Eleanor, why didn't you lend Mommy money to come find me? A hush fell over the crowd. Whispers started up. Parents glanced sideways. I stood there, expressionless, waiting to see just how far this act would go. Sadie's voice trembled, well rehearsed. Those traffickers were so scary, they hit me and yelled at me for days. If Aunt Elena had given Mommy the money sooner, Sadie said softly, voice trembling, then Mommy could have found me earlier. I wouldn't have had to suffer so long. Her eyes shimmered, threatening tears. Then she looked up at me. But Aunt Elena, I know you have money. Why didn't you help us? Didn't you see us struggling? Didn't it hurt to just stand by and do nothing? Right on cue. The whispers started. Some of the younger parents stayed quiet, unsure. But the older ones, grandparents, nosy aunts and uncles, they didn't hold back. She had the money. Why not just help a little? Those were traffickers, for God's sake. She's a mother too. What if it were her child who was taken? No wonder the little girl said she turned her back on them. What kind of mother teaches that to a child? The murmurs built up, one by one, until it felt like the whole world was glaring at me. Nora and Sadie were using everyone around us, their eyes, their judgment, their outrage, to corner me. Nora couldn't hide the smugness flickering in her gaze, but she quickly masked it, put on that soft, reasonable tone. Elena, you really need to let go of that selfish nature of yours. You're a mother. Your child's going to have a hard time making friends if people think her mum is heartless. From the crowd, Sophie let out a sharp scoff. She crossed her arms and pouted. I don't want to be her friend anyway. Her mom's a liar. She's a liar too. She's a bad kid. I don't want anyone playing with her. I placed a gentle hand on Sophie's shoulder. But before I could say anything, she burst into tears. Real, raw sobs, those uncontrollable kind only a child could make. She pointed straight at Nora and wailed, loud enough for the whole schoolyard to hear. You stole my dad. You're the other woman. She threw herself forward, grabbed Nora's arm, and cried out, Don't take my dad away. Please, don't take him from me. My mommy just got me back. I want my family to stay whole. Nora shrieked and shoved her, hard. Sophie fell, hit the ground, cried even louder. Don't take my dad. Please, don't take him. This time, the whispers turned. People looked at Nora now, frowned, shook their heads. Nora's face flushed crimson. She glanced around desperately, looking for support, and stammered. I didn't do anything. She's making it up. Why would she say something like that? Elena, how can you raise your daughter to say such awful things? I didn't respond right away. I walked over, lifted Sophie into my arms. My face was calm, but my voice was edged with sorrow. Nora, I said, you saw what just happened. You saw how upset she is. So please, for your sake and mine, stay away from my husband. Sophie, let's go. She kept crying, clutching me tight, but I held her close and walked away. I ignored the whispers, the judgment, the staring. Once we were far enough, I patted her back gently. Shh, don't cry, sweetheart. I'll protect you. She sniffled and nodded, but her eyes were still full of worry. When we got home, Richard was sitting on the couch, angry, arms crossed, face sour. I pretended not to notice. Hey, I said lightly, how's the locations scouting for your company? He turned, eyes burning. You picked another fight with Nora, didn't you? Elena, what's wrong with you? I already promised to stay away from her. Why do you keep attacking her? She and Sadie are just trying to live their lives. That was it for Sophie. She stomped in front of me, stood tall, and pointed a trembling finger right at him. You're the one who's being mean. You yelled at Mommy, for her? That woman? You're a bad dad, and a worse husband. Richard raised his hand like he was about to slap her, but I caught his wrist, hard, stopped him cold. If you want to lose everything, I said, then go ahead, try. Didn't you hear what Sophie just said? Nora shoved her, in front of everyone. There were dozens of witnesses. I turned to Sophie, softened my tone. It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. You don't have to be scared. Richard took a long, deep breath. Finally, he lowered his voice. Of course. You come first. I cut him off sharply. Then prove it. From now on, you stay away from Nora. Don't talk to her. Don't look at her. I pointed straight at him. Starting today, keep your damn distance. Then I took Sophie's hand and led her upstairs. Never once looking back. I don't know what Richard said to Nora, but after that, she became unusually quiet. Even though people had started whispering, calling Sadie the daughter of the other woman, Nora didn't dare come near me again. As for Richard, during those months, he kept asking me for money, over and over again, every time I dodged him. Telling him my company's cash flow was tight, and I needed to wait for a new project to bring in funds. Meanwhile, I was transferring nearly all of my assets to Sophie. Everything. Only a few small holdings remained under my name. I pretended to be busy, always working late. At night, I'd say Sophie was still traumatized and needed me to sleep with her. Half a year passed like that, until he finally snapped. One day, I received a series of photos. Intimate pictures of Richard and Nora together. It didn't even sting, because by then, every single cent I owned had already been transferred to my daughter. It was time. 2 weeks later, I got word that Richard had met up with Nora again. This time, at a discreet high-end hotel. With my status and connections, it only took a single phone call to get inside. I brought a housekeeper with me and walked in, cold and poised. I banged on the door, loud enough for the whole floor to hear. Richard Gray, get out here. I know you're in there. Open up, or I'm coming in. After a moment, the door creaked open. Richard stood there, awkwardly smiling. Elena, He looked nervous, but something about his expression said he had a story already prepared. That was, until he saw the group of reporters standing behind me. He froze. I pushed past him, storming into the suite. Elena, what are you doing? He reached for me, trying to stop me. But I waved the reporters forward and rushed toward the bathroom. Inside, Nora had just finished getting dressed. She let out a shriek when the cameras flashed. Richard rushed in after me. I grabbed him by the hair, screaming, "Spineless bastard!" The room exploded into chaos, me tearing through them both, throwing the printed photos into Richard's face. "You're trash, absolute garbage. We're getting a divorce. Now." There was still a mandatory waiting period before a divorce could be finalized, so I filed a lawsuit that very day. With all the evidence I had, even the judge wouldn't be able to look away. Richard didn't bother pretending anymore. "Fine," he spat. "Let's divorce. But Eleanor, don't forget, I'm entitled to half the assets." He smirked, full of contempt. "You really think you can walk away clean?" "I've done my research too. You should look it up. You'd be surprised how many wives lose everything in court, even if the husband cheats." Looking at his smug little face made me want to vomit. For most women, divorce is already a nightmare. To get a cheating man to walk away with nothing, nearly impossible, even when that man has treated them like dirt. But I am not most women. I smiled slowly, met his eyes, cold and clear. "Richard, have you even checked who my lawyer is?" He froze. I let the silence stretch, then gave him a cruel little smile. "You don't need to worry about me. Making you walk away empty-handed is easier than you think." I paused. Let the words sink in. "Actually, it's already done." 6 months ago, I started moving the assets. Why don't you check how much is still in my name? That's when the fear hit him. His face drained of color. You've been lying to me, he whispered. You've been planning this all along. You played me. I slapped him across the face, hard. If I really wanted to destroy you, it'd be easy. You think you're something? You're nothing. Get out. He lunged forward like he was going to hit me. But my people were already there, lawyer, bodyguard, witnesses. They grabbed him and slammed him to the ground. I stared down at him, curled up like a cornered rat, voice ice cold. Beat him. There are no cameras here. No witnesses. By the time he received the official divorce papers, his face was still swollen and bruised. He was a 35-year-old man, still somewhat attractive, but seeing him now, bandaged head to toe, was just ridiculous. Of course, Nora showed up. The sight of Richard all beaten up must have broken her poor little heart. Elena, she snapped, do you even consider yourself a woman? He's a man. How could you treat him like this? How's he supposed to show his face in public? I shrugged. I didn't lay a finger on him. Don't slander me. I could sue you for defamation. I waved the divorce decree in my hand with a smirk. This useless thing? Take him. Keep him off the market. You'd be doing society a favor. Richard hobbled over, wrapped in bandages, barely able to stand. Elena, he spat, divorcing you was the best decision I've ever made. Marrying you was a mistake, and I'll make you pay for doing this to me. I took a step back, calm as ever. Oh? You're accusing me now? My lawyer's right over there. Want to push it? He shut his mouth instantly. I glanced him up and down, then let my eyes drift to Nora's bag. Recording device? Number. They exchanged a tense glance, clearly furious. I smiled and walked away with my lawyer. The divorce was done. Now, it was time to boil the frogs. Slowly. Sadie returned home from school and told me that now the whole campus knew. Everyone was calling her mom, the homewrecker. And Sadie? The mistress's daughter. She'd been getting bullied. And while Sophie didn't condone bullying, she didn't feel bad either. She deserved it, Mom. I didn't disagree. In our last life, that little girl had once said to me, Miss Elena, you look so old now. Is it because you never found your daughter? Maybe it's karma. Maybe you did something awful in your past life. I knew those words didn't come from her. But still, Sadie wasn't innocent. And Nora. Her dirty laundry was everywhere now. She was fired. Her job had barely paid a few thousand a month, and without Richard's silent support, she and her daughter would have starved already. Now? No income, no prospects. She thought she could survive online. Started a live stream. Even had viewers sending her gifts. Pathetic. I contacted the platform directly. Her account was terminated within hours. After all, she was a homewrecker. Getting banned was the least of what she deserved. Richard, meanwhile, tried finding work. But after years of freeloading, he had no real skills. Worse, he had a terrible reputation. Most companies didn't even need me to make a call. They rejected him the moment they saw his name. I had people keeping tabs on them. At first, they managed. Barely. Even tried to enjoy life with what little they had. But after 3 months, things started to crack. Their rented apartment was falling apart. You could hear the shouting from outside. Every day, screaming, crying, blame. You're pathetic, Nora hissed. Elena turned you into a useless man. You're middle-aged. Why can't you get a decent job? If you can't get into a big company, deliver food at least. Me? Deliver food? Richard snapped. You think I'd stoop that low? At least delivery guys feed their wives and kids. You don't even have a cent to your name. And you have the nerve to call them pathetic. It's all your fault. He slapped her, hard. If you hadn't seduced me, Elena wouldn't have left. When I was with her, life was easy. She screamed, lunged at him. Don't you blame me. You couldn't keep it in your pants, and now it's my fault? If you miss her so much, go be a male escort. Make money and satisfy that filthy ego of yours. I swear. He punched her again. She didn't back down. Went straight for the most vulnerable part of him. Sadie stood nearby, crying. It was a direct report from one of my people. I read it silently, then put the phone away. It was time to take Sophie to her therapy session. At the clinic, while I waited for her, my phone rang again. Another report. Richard and Nora had finally snapped, stabbed each other. Both were rushed to the hospital, severely injured. The next day, Richard came to see me. I sneered. Looks like you weren't hurt badly enough. He tried to approach, but my bodyguard blocked him. He began sobbing. Elena, please, I remember everything now. In our last life, I wronged you. I wronged Sophie. Please, just give me one more chance to make it right. Let me repay what I owe you. That's when I realized it. Richard had been reborn too. In the last life, he had fallen into a coma. So that meant, now, he was dead? I smiled coldly. If you remember everything, then don't play the victim. From now on, whatever I do to you, you'll have to accept it. His face turned ghostly pale. Elena, you can't treat me like this. I took a step forward, calm and lethal. Same words as always, Richard. Dealing with you is easy. I want you to live in hell. Not allowed to die, not allowed to live. He was stunned, then furious. You're insane. 1 month later, another call. Richard had killed Nora and Sadie. No money left. No way to make more. And in the end, he blamed everything on her. Called her a seductress, a curse. Said she had ruined both his lives. After the murders, Richard was arrested. He begged to see me. I didn't go. Just thinking about him made my skin crawl. Instead, I had my people erase every photo and video of him. A year passed. His trial ended in the death penalty. The day he was executed was also the last day Sophie ever visited her therapist. The doctor smiled gently. She's healed. I cried. On the way home, Sophie gripped my hand tightly. Mom, she said, we're okay now. We're really okay. I wiped my tears, pulled her close, and whispered, it's over. After 2 lifetimes, we were finally whole. Then she looked up at me. Mom, do you regret marrying Richard Gray? I shook my head. No. If I had to do it all over again, I'd still marry him. Because that's how I got to be your mother. So Sophie, if there's ever another life, you must find me. No matter where I am, find me. I will always love you.